From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
How's she going? I'm John Amy in Butte. I'll tell you how a recent motor vehicle accident upended the lives of people living in this apartment complex.
More than 100 dead across the South days after Hurricane Helene made landfall. I'm Nicole Valdez in Anderson, South Carolina with a look at the impacts as communities continue to grieve and start to pick up the pieces from this monster storm.
Now, no one likes homework over the weekend, but this workbook actually can lead to some pretty amazing outcomes. We're going to be heading over to Billings and over to the zoo to see the full scope of this book. Alrighty, it is 6:01, almost 2 on this Monday morning. Jane McDonald and Matt Elwell with you bright and early. Matt, tell me about your weekend. How was it?
It was good. I got to enjoy some post-tropical depression action.
Lovely.
I traveled to a class reunion for my wife's family, or for my wife anyway. Pretty devastating stuff, and that's not in the center of that devastation. So there's a lot going on there.
Terrifying.
Yeah,
stuff
it really
going
is. Temperatures this morning in southwest Montana, a lot of 30s and 40s to start the morning, maybe near the freezing mark for several locations. I expect tomorrow morning to have another cool, possibly frosty start. So you may think about covering those plants tonight for tomorrow morning if you haven't done it already for today. It looks like today's going to be a pretty quiet day overall. Ooh, let me back that up one spot.
Back it up.
Temperatures back into the 50s today. What a cool down we have in store. We're going to talk more about our hour-by-hour forecast, of course, in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. A car that crashed into an apartment building in Butte last Sunday also disrupted the lives of the people living there. As MTN's John Amy reports, tenants in that building now need to find a new place to live.
This apartment building in Butte was recently heavily damaged after being struck by a vehicle, and it's upended the lives of the tenants living here, who are now forced to find new places to live. A difficult prospect in a town with a lack of housing.
I don't have a place to sleep, I don't have a place to shower, you know, it's like pretty much every inconvenience possible. So I mean, like, I'm glad I still have my car, but I'm like kind of homeless at the moment.
Justin lives in this apartment complex with his girlfriend at 1025 East Front Street. The building was struck by a vehicle the evening of September 22nd, and it did heavy damage to the foundation. The city has deemed it structurally unsafe, and the property manager has given all 4 tenants notice to be out in 30 days.
The market's tough. We got to find a place we can afford, you know, a place we can that'll allow us to have a pet, and you know, like we things aren't easy.
The tenants have renter's insurance, but the sudden change is still a big burden.
We're just trying to get by. We're living paycheck to paycheck, and then you know something bad happens, and it causes 4 people to be out on their butts.
I reached out to the building's landlord, Santana Property Management, for comment on this situation, but did not receive a response. Police say a 60-year-old Butte man was driving the car that crashed into the building and remains hospitalized with injuries. The incident remains under investigation. Police suspect alcohol and speed were factors in the crash.
You know, gonna be too hard on him. I mean, I know accidents happen, but I did read that there could have been alcohol involved, and he was going way too fast. I mean, it was irresponsible all around.
In Butte, John Amy, MTN News.
Now to an update on a story that we've been following for weeks. The Ennis mayor will keep her job for now. At Thursday's town meeting commissioners discussed 2 items. Did Mayor Hawes execute a contract without commissioner approval? And if so, should she resign or her position be rendered vacant? Commissioners agreed that Mayor Nikki Hawes had executed a school resource officer contract without their approval, but as for her removal, they were split. After more than 2 hours of discussion, commissioners voted 3-2 not to remove Mayor Hawes from her position. And the search for the missing hiker in Yellowstone National Park continues, and officials are asking for help. According to the park, Austin King was wearing a black sweatshirt and gray pants at the time he went missing in Eagle Peak area in the southeast corner of the park. Yellowstone officials say that since Saturday, September 21st, 85 people, 2 helicopters, a search dog team, and drones have searched for Austin King by foot and by air. And this morning, millions of Americans in the southeast are still without power after Helen blew through the region. The storm is being blamed for at least 116 deaths across half a dozen states, and that number is expected to rise. Soon, President Joe Biden will update the country on the federal government's response, with cleanup and recovery efforts now underway. CBS News' Nicole Valdez is in Anderson, South Carolina, with more.
Historic flooding from Helene submerged parts of western North Carolina underwater over the weekend.
There was a whole house right there.
This Marshall, North Carolina woman says she fled after the waters reached waist deep.
I was grabbing stuff. I have my 3 dogs in the car, and my car was like almost underwater.
The state's governor says rescue efforts are ongoing and that food, water, and supplies are being airlifted to those stuck in the hardest hit areas.
Oh, God.
This video shows the moment a bridge in Tennessee collapsed into rushing floodwaters.
She was ready to sink.
On Tybee Island in Georgia, this man, who goes by Huck Finn, and his dog, Creedy, are hoping high tide carries them back out to sea after strong winds from Helene stranded their boat on the side of the highway.
I thought we were supposed to gonna die.
Here in South Carolina, the state's governor is urging residents to be patient, warning that downed power lines like this one has slowed down cleanup crews.
My cat is alive, my neighbors are alive, and we are helping each other.
Massive recovery efforts are also underway in Florida.
We want to be helpful to get this debris.
While touring the devastation, the state's governor warned his state is not out of the woods just yet, with 2 more months left until hurricane season ends. Nicole Valdez, CBS News, South Carolina.
And President Joe Biden has declared a state of emergency for those southern states hardest hit by the storm. He's also planning to visit the region in the coming days. There are hundreds of FEMA officials also on the ground in the southeast. Now, a little bit closer to home, a rally was held on the Yellowstone in Laurel to protest Northwestern Energy's new gas power plant. The rally was hosted by Northern Plains Resource Council, an environmentally friendly community-led organization. They say their biggest concerns with the plant are price increases, pollution, and community disruption. The Laurel plant has 18 engines and is capable of emitting 175 megawatts of energy and is 33 acres large.
A plant like this should have a 3-mile radius around it with no residential areas. 3 miles around this plant gets all of Laurel, all the residential areas, almost to Billings. So it's actually impacting the health and environment for everybody around here.
We reached out to Northwestern Energy for comment, to which they replied the Yellowstone County Generating Station will provide 24/7 energy to the many who support it and to those who do not, regardless. And being intentional about leadership traits just got easier thanks to a workbook designed by the woman who led leadership Billings for the past decade. MTN's Diane Parker pounces on this story.
If you've ever thought of calling a coworker a sloth, a sly fox, maybe even a vulture, well, now you have a very valid reason to do just that, thanks to a new personality trait workbook designed by a Billings woman featuring animals right here at Zoo Montana.
We think of vultures as being scavengers, right? And so they're taking from other people and other things. When somebody takes credit for your work, it doesn't feel very good.
That's why Jennifer wants you to know her workbook set, Leading in Color, Leadership Lessons from the Animal World, was her mentor's idea that she executed after being asked to do so.
This book is the land animals, and then the other book is the sea and sky animals. I've selected 24 animals in each book, 2 leadership traits for each animal.
You can find many of those at Zoo Montana, including the otter, who's equally independent and collaborative, leading with playfulness.
How do you infuse fun and playfulness into your work environment? There's this thought that work is work and shouldn't really be fun, but we spend a lot of time at work, and so it's super important that we enjoy the place that we're working.
Otters are highly social, but if you have a lone wolf Among the otters, Reiser says you need to take a look at your habitat or workplace policies and environment to make sure it's accommodating.
So in certain settings, you might have to lean into different traits, and so you can pull the patience of a penguin and you can pull the courage of a polar bear.
The zoo's operations manager, Jessica Hart, and her team are enrolled in Reiser's executive coaching for professional development.
When you start putting leadership characteristics with animals, you start to really realize that, oh yeah, I actually do relate to that owl because I sit and think a little bit more rather than like jumping quickly into something.
From squirrels to sloths, the workbooks focus on the positive traits.
So squirrels are adaptable, agile, quick, and efficient animals. They are just always actively looking and seeking. As leaders, we should be doing that too.
Seeking knowledge and a better version of yourself. In Billings, Diane Parker, MTN News.
I think that's great. I mean, sky's the limit as far as animals in Southwest Montana.
In my mind, one of the cool things about that is looking at that and reading through this, you can pick out characteristics of each animal that you could inherit or work on.
From the mighty bear to the simple squirrel.
That's it.
All right, we're going to take a short break, but before we do, I wanted to take us back to the national scene over in the southeast. I mean, Hurricane Helene's impact has been widespread. I believe over 116 people,
That's correct.
According to some reports, have been dead, and that number could continue. And the reaching impact, Matt, is what really is astounding me.
It's pretty amazing, and the damage all the way back into the Midwest. A lot of flooding, a lot of downed trees. There were power outages all over like Indiana and those areas who weren't right in the center of that storm.
Absolutely.
Pretty amazing.
Absolutely terrifying. Absolutely. And, you know, there is word that, FEMA's getting involved. Of course, those federal resources. So more information
We'll
to
be
come,
following this, and it'll be interesting to see what the damage scope is on how many states.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
All right, time for that break coming up right at you. But when we come back, we're going to keep talking about the national news, your top stories coming at you, but also ghost gun crackdowns. We're going to explain just what ghost guns are, what recent developments have been coming out of Oregon, and how it's made its way all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court.